All right, we're now recording.
All right, awesome. Okay, quick housekeeping. We'll just do it. So acknowledging that we're meeting here on the traditional lands of the Kaurna people and that we extend our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. So, Adelaide, it's been a moment. It's pretty busy. We've had the bikes, we've had the golf, we've got the festival, and I think it's going to be footy and Easter in another blink. So, welcome back to the Adelaide Microsoft IT Pro Community User Meetup for March 2025. I'm Andrew Young, Modern Work Specialist at Data. There's my stuff. And joined with me is...
So, yeah, I'm Shehan, MVP in security and working at Bastion Technology Services as an architect for identity and endpoints as well.
What do you? Thank you. Again, like the fact our sponsors Microsoft for providing this venue, Systematech Consulting for keeping our user group going, Data for the occasional swag that's co-branded when we have any, and for, I guess, my own brand for providing refreshments. In case you missed it in the last 2 months, there's a new podcast out called Out of Band. It's a Microsoft security podcast, and it's hosted by a couple of familiar faces. So Shahan, myself, and Anthony Porter from Perth, we get together every couple of weeks and talk about security things. We just had our latest episode with Meryl Fernando from Microsoft. So he's the principal product manager of Entra at Microsoft. So tune in, find us on LinkedIn, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast, or wherever else we're being republished, I guess. Yeah, stay tuned for more. That was a bit quick. So yeah, we'll go into what's new before we hand over to our guest speaker for today. So the SharePoint January event is now on demand. And kicked off this morning rather, is the SharePoint Hackathon. So this is a bit of friendly competition for the general public to kind of submit some of their own designs around the SharePoint intranet, what the page or the landing pages look like, some custom web parts and so on using the SharePoint framework, and what they could possibly do with SharePoint agents or agents in general. So I'll be keen to see the results, and if there's a winner, we'll see what they've come up with. More in the modern workspace, there's a Copilot camp. So on GitHub, there is a repository of various learning materials, videos, and so on. Labs as well for you to build your own agent using Copilot Studio. There is a Viva Engage masterclass. So I think there's 8 or so episodes, and it's just around how to make the most out of using Viva Engage, formerly known as Yammer. So there'll be various resources around getting the most out of using that for your internal community. Starting to lean more towards Copilot, there is a deployment blueprint available in PDF or PowerPoint, just around the best practices to combat oversharing and people having more access than they should, and so on. And there is also, based on the Secure Future Initiative, Secure by Default, there is steps around configuring Microsoft Purview to have the right amount of sensitivity protection, data leak prevention, and so on. So fairly high level, test, do, and then use. And at the same time, another guy at Microsoft called Ray Reyes, who particularly works in the Purview space, he has a updated deployment card for Microsoft Purview. So covering all the things I just mentioned there and then some, with the new data security posture management for AI as well. So yeah, we've got plenty of resources around how to set up your data security now. More security. And at the same time, there's dynamic watermarking for sensitivity labels. So as a user signed in, if you're accessing a document that has sensitive information, it's going to display your user principal name or your username. There's going to be different views you can see this, and it's going to work across multiple platforms. So your Windows, Mac OS, and mobile devices, you'll get the similar experience. Do you know about this one? So if you are using, or you've got Entra hybrid joining for your devices, you may have used this connector before. So essentially syncing an additional syncing service for AD and Entra. So the new version from May onwards will use a managed service account instead of the local system account on the server that you install this on. Just keep that in mind, and that's just being parallel with Microsoft's commitment to security and protecting everything, even or hardening of their services. There is a new outbound Exchange Online external message daily limit. So this will target all those smaller tenants or tenants with low amounts of licensing, and even trial tenants. So there's going to be a lot of people out there with, there's a free trial for Exchange Online. I'm going to start spamming people, but there'll be a built-in limit now to prevent that. At the same time, I think when we had those dev tenants, people were still able to do it, and then they've taken away the exchange component so that they couldn't anymore. And I think that's why they've stopped giving us dev tenants. But this is rolling out over this month, and by April they'll be across all commercial tenants as well now. I think this is you, so I'll hand over.
Yeah. So authentication methods migration wizard. So basically, the legacy method of using SSPR or self-service password reset and for MFA. So you had to register your information twice for those features. So that will be retired in September 2025. So basically, you need to move those registration methods to a converged method or the authentication methods policy. So earlier, it gave you an option to migrate manually, but now this is actually came in just last month. So now it automatically you can just migrate everything. So it's just looking at whatever the authentication methods that you already have and whatever the information that you have provided for SSPR and MFA. This will automatically move into the new policy. So the users will not see any downtime or anything like that. So that's now in play in the Entra portal. And also this is basically a wizard sort of a thing. So next, and you are done with the migration. So otherwise the legacy registration again, maybe what you have even right now is both for MFA and for SSPR, the user has to register twice. So that will no longer the case going forward. Yeah, so combined is there, but it's more like a manual thing. So you have to go through, audit your users, look at what they have now, and then create your policy. But this will basically do everything for you, and then just migrate into the new policy. This is in public preview, the QR code sign-in, mainly for frontline users, not recommended for information users who are working in finance, IT and HR and stuff like that. So it's basically a QR code that's printed for each and every user, like a unique QR code, and they can use it keep it in the tag every time when they're asking for password in Entra, log into Web 365 services. They can sign in with the QR code, scan the QR code from their phone, and then each and every user will have their own personal PIN. They can enter the PIN to match that combination, and then they can sign in. So this is basically, you have to scan that QR code from a mobile phone, like or from a tablet, then it will go through. So these are this option is basically for frontline users who are not specifically not using a computer for their day-to-day work. Yeah, so few security things to consider as well. Need to connect it with conditional access policies. So, for an example, if someone is signing in from out of the corporate network, so they will be pointed to a different authentication method rather than just QR code, because for more safety precautions. And also, whenever the QR code is lost or stolen, they have to should be a new one should come through to the user than using the same QR code for security reasons. Yeah, so that's pretty much what's new in security for Entra. Yes, yeah, exactly. So you don't need to. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh, I didn't animate that. Whoops.
There you go.
That's great. Well, ignoring the obnoxious technical takeoff image in the top right, there is a Value of Windows Enterprise webinar series. Don't worry, I'll send out the notes and the links afterwards. There's also a Windows Skilling Snacks series as well. I'll also provide the links to that. And so, technical takeoff, Windows and Intune, it kicked off this morning. Today's the 4th. Yep. So all the things around Windows and Intune and having, you know, I don't know, zero trust and protected Windows devices. Yeah. Yeah. So even your cloud devices as well. So Windows, wherever Windows may exist, there'll be a topic on hardening that. We spoke about this last month, but there is impending doom for Windows 10, and there are some options. So obviously migrating to Windows 11, leveraging the cloud version, so streamed PCs or Azure Virtual Desktop. And there's always the alternative to stick with Windows 10 but purchase extended security updates. As it says there, you can have it up to 3 years. So you're paying for essentially just security updates, no new features. I believe VMs in Azure running Windows 10 will get the ESU included as part of the consumption. And of course, the other products of that same time, I guess. So Office 2016, Exchange 2016, Skype 2015 with their weird numbering there. And some of the 2019 products will also go just in a way of getting everything modern and either online or subscription based, just like the servers. I think Exchange and SharePoint server, they're moving to subscription editions as well. So some interesting setups. I haven't actually seen any servers with those member roles installed, so be interesting to see. Again, reiterating that there's ninja training out there for security. So each of the Defender 4 products, and including Sentinel, there is amount of training and free assessments you can take to get participation awards. There's a Ninja Cat. There's also a cloud native app protection policies ebook out in the wild. So if you get bored or you've already done the 6 or 7 of those things there, you can read all of that. Microsoft Learn, we did mention there's a new certification, which is really just an update to the existing information protection cert. So SC 401, what they've done is they've stripped out the compliance or the regulatory compliance related components and stuck those in applied skills. So this is going to focus more on the information protection, data loss prevention, insider risk management, and some of the other e-discovery and auditing components. There are new GitHub certifications, and there's also going to be the learning paths coming as well. So the foundations, GitHub Copilot, and advanced security. I haven't looked at these myself, but it'd be interesting to see what they've got. The Copilot Academy, which is part of an M365 Copilot license, which appears in Microsoft Learn, is now customizable and extendable. So you can point that to your own internal resources. If you have videos and documents specific to your business, you can incorporate that as part of the Copilot training. So if there's anything that's directly related, they can be trained on that at the same time. That was the extensible part. The customizable part is you can now put your corporate logo and rearrange some stuff. Microsoft Student yeah, Microsoft Student Accelerator ANZ online meetup. I think another one just happened last month. Keep an eye out for those. And also, if you're a partner of Microsoft and you've been in the partner space for a while, what was previously competencies, gold, silver, and so on, they've got new solutions partner designations for Microsoft partners. So the Azure space, they've now got SMB paths, meaning there is less of a, I guess, goal to get the solutions partner designation. So it could be half the amount of exams that need to be passed by the techs in the business, like new customer ads and the consumption of your customers. So that's very welcome news for a lot of businesses out there that focus a lot more on the Azure space. Security will be the one that comes after this. Yeah, Microsoft Learn student ambassadors. Usually there's a lot of students either studying or graduating or postgrad coming along. If you are interested in this program, check out that site, reach out to us. I'd say hang back, but you didn't come today. So essentially you do sign up. There is a Discord server and it's a nice little community. You'll get access to some benefits and there are some, I guess, milestones. So if you do certain community related activities, you will then upgrade along the path and get awarded the beta and then the gold awards. And I mentioned the accelerator before. Michelle Sanford runs these around ANZ. Still interested to have something in Adelaide. So if anyone's interested in getting this going along, let me know, please. Quick whip around our local Microsoft community. These are the other user groups. You'll find us on Meetup as well. All right. And what's coming, there was a lot of events on. So we've got the takeoff that's happening right now, the SharePoint Hackathon, cheeky plug, there's a data fabric workshop on the 19th, Digital Workplace Conference in New Zealand, there's an AI-powered Biz Apps bootcamp, so similar to the summer bootcamp, there will be updates on Dynamics, Power Platform, and so on. So I think if you attend 6 of the sessions, you'll get the Platinum attendee badge. So there's MVP Global Summit. There's a webinar on Microsoft Places, Global AI Community Bootcamp that's started now. There'll be a lot of these happening around the world. Just reach out to that website and see where your nearest event is. M365 Community Conference and Build later in May. And for us, a bit of TBCs, but got some light speakers lined up in the next quarter. Again, if you're interested in certain topics, let us know, or if you want to present, also please let us know. Use the QR code to fill out the form. All right, well, this is where I hand over to our guest speaker. Hello. So we've got Zane Rodman joining us.
Hey, everyone.
I'm going to do some cursed rearranging of my screen.
There we go. Is that all up on your end? Can we see that fine? Yep. Excellent. Thumbs up. Good. That's what I want to see. Nice. Another thumbs up. Okay. All right. So here today to talk all about global secure access. Pleasure to come and meet everyone and yeah, run through this presentation, and hopefully we can find some new interesting tidbits relating to this new and exciting technology. So moving on, we've got an agenda today. Firstly, introduction. What is global secure access? Traffic forwarding profiles, so go into a little bit of the nuts and bolts there, as well as monitoring. Lastly, looking at some demo material as well relating to the technology. So moving on there, a bit about me. I'm Zane, I'm a consultant at Data3. I've been working with Microsoft technologies for the last 20 years. Heavily invested these days in identity, Intune, Azure, and so forth. So a lot of exciting stuff there. I've also included my LinkedIn handle there if anyone's interested to connect as well to chat more. I'll move on now to the next slide, which is just to do with what is global secure access. For those that don't know, it's Microsoft's SSE solution. So essentially, a lot of modern work these days, and the common issue faced is how do we protect or maintain access to data from perimeter locations rather than the core. And in recent times, as we know, with the whole epidemic, a lot of hybrid work and those sorts of things, it's been a great growth of space in this area. The GSA, or Global Secure Access, follows zero trust, so least privileged, verify explicitly, and assume breach. So a lot of it's modeled around this approach so that we're able to get access, be able to control what gets access to these apps or internet, so forth, as we go further into this. Another benefit of this technology is that it converges network identity and endpoint access control. So what we're seeing is the whole identity network, or this convergence where we can start to control that layer more from the endpoint layer. And another core benefit of this technology as well is that we can start leveraging conditional access with the solution. So not only are we able to give access, control access to these apps, internet, so forth, but there's a lot of power that can be reinforced through conditional access rules that are put in place. We were also able to modernize the legacy app auth, so for older protocols or anything that doesn't potentially have MFA, any private apps, we could start leveraging global secure access within the private access environment, where we can start looking at things like MFA, for instance, if we're reaching particular protocols, web access, so forth. So there's a lot of power that's behind this technology. And another thing which is this has been recently put into GA as of November, I believe. Anyone can correct me if I'm wrong there. Private access itself is fairly new. And there's a lot of growth in that area as well. So what we're finding is a lot of preview areas and up and coming exciting features that are rolling out across the suite, which is really great. So there's a lot to look forward to there. So moving on to the SSE solution, a lot of you may be aware with application proxy, Entra private access itself in particular has components of that to help facilitate the technology. And again, built on these zero trust principles. So I guess the intent is to try and remove that operational complexity, in particular with access to on-prem resources, with the old conventional VPNs and so forth. Also, with the rising number of applications in use, there's obviously the prevalence of cybersecurity threats amongst organizations. So having a solution in place, such as the Microsoft Global Secure Access, can help modernize the workplace, especially for organizations that have the cloud going for cloud first and mobile as well. So what we can see here at a fairly high level is we've got the control around our endpoints, identities, and also remote networks. So remote network incorporation, branch sites that may integrate into internet access. So there's a lot of control around the networks and what we can get access to and so forth. And that moves us away from this legacy network approach that I guess a lot of organizations still have. It's all about controlling from the core. With the SSC, it's about looking at from the perimeter, taking away the complexity within the network. And then we start controlling this access from remote sites for internet access to Microsoft resources, as well as so forth. So we've got this new methodology that can modernize the workplace and try and get away from this older model, which is highly beneficial. So in terms of the internet access or private access in general, we've got a lot of control around what we can look for when it comes to users, locations, risk. So we get this full suite of controls that come into play once we start utilizing this technology. Applying CA conditional access controls to websites and internal resources means that we can start looking more into more specifics around those devices, or also working hand in hand with other solutions such as Microsoft Intune and Entra as well. So we get the full, with the P2s, the full identity protection and so forth, and the governance that comes with that we can look at rolling out. And it's crucial to the pillars of the zero trust when it comes to the full Microsoft ecosystem. And we could also start, working well with other technologies such as Sentinel as well, pulling in all that data, connectors, so forth, so we're getting a rich insight into the organization or so forth with this technology. So moving on to the next slide, we've got our dashboard. So a lot of us want to know, what does it look like, so we've got the dashboard, which is in the Entra console, right? Entra itself being global access, secure access part of Entra. We've got the applications where we can start publishing applications similar to enterprise applications, which they somewhat are. We can publish private access endpoint applications that can communicate through this solution using private access. Connect, and forgive me if this is very small, the writing. We got Connect, where we can start deploying our connectors that are similar to the proxies that we run in Entra as well. And that can traverse that data within global secure access, giving your remote workers or even the control for the on-site resources through conditional access and those risk-based controls and so forth. We got the ability to secure, so this is applicable for securing web traffic, content such as categories, I should say, website categories, block lists, allow lists. We could start leveraging conditional access hand in hand with secure. So what we can start doing is controlling not only the private access there, but what sites users are able to access from those corporate devices. Monitoring is strong in terms of what we've got here, audit controls, got workbooks as well with login gestation. So if we've got Entra login gestation going to log analytics workspace, we could start leveraging Monitor to be able to look at data-rich insights into our workbooks and usage across the platform. And we've got the settings, of course, as well, that we can utilize within the dashboard for Entra global secure access. Another core feature of our global secure access is RBAC, of course. With everything, we want least access privileges. So global secure access, it brings in some extra role-based controls. So we've got the GSA admin, which is essentially this role, and we're leveraging other roles as well if we want to start granularly assigning engineers hand in hand with solutions such as PIM, where we want to start providing that access to end users. Another core feature of global secure access is we've got traffic forwarding profiles. So we're split into three types. We've got private access for access to private resources. So when you want to tunnel SMB, remote desktop, port applications that need to tunnel through, we start utilizing that forwarding profile. for internet access or Microsoft access. These are accessing external, publicly accessible resources. So Microsoft being there to protect against replay attacks, and also adding the core benefits of conditional access to those extra rules around compliant network checks, for instance, where we might want activity to be coming from a compliant global secure access endpoint rather than it just only being a compliant device, for instance, or a trusted site or network. So these three profiles being split move us on to the licensing itself. So each being different in terms of licensing. So your Microsoft profiles are covered by your Entra P1, P2. And we've got private and internet access licenses as well. All these as well are incorporated within the Microsoft Entra suite. So we can find that by assigning either this license, and there's trials available as well, to be able to run these proof of concepts, for instance, to be able to test the technology. You can leverage the Entra suite to bundle those together and start licensing and testing those feature sets. Moving on from that one, we've got monitoring. So monitoring itself is broken down through the dashboard in terms of traffic logs. So this is in preview at the moment, but we're able to look at those logs and see what activity is taking place so that we can troubleshoot, understand what profiles are being utilized for traffic that's traversing global secure access. So if you're lighting up private access, you can start to see that traffic coming through, and basically you can troubleshoot that from there. Audit logs are essentially auditing capabilities that we can utilize to be able to look at admin activity. So when we're making changes and so forth, and specifically, you know, if there's no change control, who knows, basically on the environment, we've got these systems that we can utilize to leverage to trace changes and so forth. Specifically, if something breaks, we've got the ability to go back and have a look at these particular dashboards that are all conveniently placed within the Entra Global Secure Access dashboard. Enriched Microsoft 365 logs is a feature of Global Secure Access where we can start looking at hand in hand, for instance, Microsoft traffic porting. We can start looking at application performance and other specific logs that may further expand upon just the network traffic itself. So we can start incorporating other services as well, which is a very convenient feature set as well. And we've got the workbooks. So workbooks itself being workbooks where you can have custom visualizations of data, which has to be ingested into a log analytics or a workspace to be able to poll that data, query it using KQL, where we could start looking at you know, any kinds of trends and so forth, or what it may be that needs to be customized in there.
Can I ask a question there, Zane?
Oh yeah, sure, go for it.
That workbooks, is that specific to GSA, or are we talking about the conditional access workbooks that GSA kind of leverages?
So this is specific. So within
specific, yeah.
Yeah, within Global Secure Access,
Okay.
there are specific within our traffic. So when you're sending data to a log analytics workspace, you get to choose the type of data that gets sent through, and these are optional, additional metrics that get sent through. So yeah, definitely, it's a separate workbook blade that you can get access to visualize that that data.
Yeah, right. And the audit log. So you got to configure that separately in GSA to send it to
yeah. So
log
being
analytics workspace, or
yeah, so Entra itself being quite broad in terms of what it's got. You've got risk-based, conditional access, sign-in logs, all these metrics. So this forms another piece of that intra logging. Yeah, yep. So
Yeah,
it's
cool.
yeah, definitely pretty cool. You know, it's not always something that's utilized across organizations, these intra workbooks, but definitely you can get a lot of data, especially if you're not seeing exactly what it is that you want to see. You've got this customization where you can start building your own, I guess, visual reports or dashboards that can visualize that. Yeah. So
Cool, thanks.
yeah, no worries. Any other questions from anyone before I keep going? And we can always do Q&A at the end anyway. So all right. Another core feature of the, I guess, the back end of, you know, all the GUIs and so forth is that we've got the flexibility to use PowerShell to expand upon the configuration. So we've got the beta PowerShell module, and that interfaces through the graph. So essentially, without, you know, if there's any automation or any sort of controls that you want to put in place, and typically you don't need to use the GUI or don't want to use the GUI or infrastructure as code, all those sorts of scenarios. We've got these controls to leverage as well. So that, I guess, forms a high-level piece around global secure access and those forwarding profiles and the three controls: internet, private access, and Microsoft access, form the piece around those technologies. So with that, what I might move on to is just the demos that I've got put together here, just to work through putting that into picture. So we'll start with the getting started. So I've got together here a little video I've put together. Essentially, the blade itself, what we can do when we want to demo this technology, we can work through activating the feature within global secure access. So with that in mind, we go through the process of activating, we wait, the solution will from that point on, it's crucial to have the licensing ready and available, but you've got the flexibility as well to be able to explore this within the dashboard. As we can see down the bottom left, we've got GSA, Global Secure Access, and all of our applicable controls there so that we can start looking at our traffic forwarding and client download as well. And I might specifically just call out the client downloads here. So when it comes to the client downloads, we've got multiple choices, but specifically in terms of Windows, they need to be Entra joined or hybrid Entra joined. So it can't be a BYOD Entra registered device. So with that, typically you could roll out a solution like this through Intune. You definitely have to have these devices or endpoints joined to Entra. The client itself is relatively straightforward to install. As long as the user's adequately licensed, what we can do is deploy the agent to the device and then go through the process of installing and testing and so forth. We've also got the connectors as well for private access, and these are specifically to the private access pillar. We deploy the connector typically to a Windows Server endpoint. There's specific requirements that need to be met to install that connector, and it's best to install a minimum of 2. And so these connectors, when they're deployed, they facilitate that proxy, I guess you could say. You can advertise applications. So the connector itself needs line of sight to the applications that need to be hosted. But you've got a whole mix of scenarios that you can work with. You may have a DMZ environment, for instance. You can deploy a connector at a DMZ site and have it separate. So you've got like a remote connectivity for a specific group of people, not everyone, and you can have these connectors in different groups. So they can all be, I guess, siloed. So you can advertise different applications for different use cases and segment that data so that you can start working with this sort of least access privilege model around access there. We've also got the ability to set up remote networks. So this is using BGP. We can integrate or link up internet access, for instance, to remote branch sites. So there may be instances where you've got guest Wi-Fi, for instance, and you want to pass that traffic through a solution like this. So you can use something like a remote network to be able to capture that data and put it through a service such as Global Secure Access. But it's worth keeping in consideration that that you need the endpoint deployed for private access, so that's not compatible with the remote network there. We've also got the ability to deploy clients to Android and iOS. I believe iOS is in preview at the moment. They may be both, and they use the Defender, I believe the Defender app, to act as the broker for that specific technology. And yeah, I believe iOS as well. So it's ever expanding. There's a lot in preview at the moment, but there's a lot of power as well driving this one, and a lot of features that are new and upcoming as well. So moving on, we've got our traffic forwarding profiles. So traffic forwarding profiles here, we can start looking at the blade itself and what it looks like. I've cut it back a fair bit, but essentially with the three profiles, Microsoft, public, internet, you can test all three. And private access, if it's just that you want to pilot, for instance, you can just turn that one on. Just making sure that you've got the licenses available. Otherwise, I don't believe it will turn on. It's also important just to be mindful of the user scoping. So here we can see that we can add a user or security group to that forwarding profile. So with that assigned, that user in question or group of users in question will receive that profile through the client. So we can also see through this dashboard any conditional access policies that may be scoped, applications published, and any remote networks assigned as well. So there's both three of these profiles can be lit up at the same time. It is recommended though, if you're using internet access, that you enable Microsoft as well, because Microsoft profile has, I guess, a pre-populated list of addresses that's ever expanding and updating, that sending Microsoft traffic through, and that just guarantees that it doesn't overlap with the internet access data when you start sending internet traffic through. You may have some unexpected results with those Microsoft applications. So here we've got a test. So this is just to simulate from an end user experience, I should say demo, of compliant networks. So this is a mix of conditional access rules, looking at compliant network check, getting access to the admin portal. So as I believe all the admin portals itself. So if we start this off, I'll start off with this video where logging into Entra. Bear in mind this demo lab was pretty basic, so we didn't have any password to sign in or anything like that. So it's all fairly clunky, but get a bit of an idea. So here we get I'll just pause it there. So we've got our blocker. I guess this is conditional access in the back end saying you're not working from a compliant device. So what I've got in this lab is our agent that I'll deploy. This is just to show you the process. So we'll get our global secure access client. Now this machine's AD joined. So this will just all work. That goes through the process of deploying our GSA client. And once that's done, we can start to see the this slide here is just showing that the machine as well is registered in. So I'll just pause it when it pops up here. So here we can see that our device is Entra joined or zero AD joined, which is a yes. So it's a prerequisite for the GSA client. And we've got a sign in as well on this, which I believe we'll run through. So once that's deployed, what we should find is the agent's pretty quick in the back end connecting, and then we've got through to the resource itself. So that there is just demonstrating one of the many use cases of using global secure access rather than just the private. We can also look at looking at the compliant network or various other controls around access. Just keeping in mind the requirement that these machines need to meet those requirements, right? There's also another use case here that I put together. This is just in relation to PIM. And Manoj, is there something, if you pop your screen on, you're going to ask another question, or we're all good? Excellent. Nice. Okay, so PIM elevation for remote desktop. So I put this one together here just in relation to another use case. So 10.2.0 to 4, this is an Azure VM. There's no line of sight. This is purely, I'm working from a remote device. And so we've got our connect, I've disabled the GSA client. So here I've enabled it. And once it connects, which is connected there, we should start seeing some activity, right? I've got a website as well in the background that's hosted, just IIS, so we can see the tunnels up, right? So we get straight to 8080, but we're getting a prompt for remote desktop. So this is where we start looking at various controls that we can put in place. So I might pause this here. So what we've got is we've got access published to remote desktop, but we don't have access, if that makes sense. So we're limited in what we can do to access this until we give ourselves the right permissions. So it's blocking us at this layer. So what I'm going to demonstrate here is how we can go through PIM. We can give ourselves the security group assignment here to get access to remote desktop. So this would work well in use cases with admin and not wanting to leave, remote desktop open all the time to servers, right? So we run through a PIM request. Wait for this to come up. Run through that. So at this stage, we can see that so we've actively assigned that security group. So that security group is directly assigned to that remote desktop, right? So now we've done that, we can try again. So we're working remotely from home. I need to get access to a critical tier 0 server. Here we go. We have 3. So we've got our PIM assignment eligible for us to get access to that resource. So, and here I've just got a generic user that just to validate that is working. And again, absolutely zero line of sight. This is just going straight through private access itself through a private access connector. So I'm demoing here as well that we can disable that global secure access client, and I'm clicking around in here just to show that it sees that connection. So we're proving at this point that yes, traffic's 100% going through the tunnel, right? And then I can bring it back online. I believe it might have timed out at this stage, but we'll just keep an eye on it. Okay. And also we can have a look at the traffic that's traversing the tunnel. So here I can have a look here, and we can see that our connection is traversing the tunnel. We get our UDP 3389 running through. We've restored that connection, and private access is 100% running through that. There's no, magic happening, and I'm, getting to that in any other way. So, yep. So that demonstrates a bit of PIM action with global secure access. We could also leverage MFA. So if we look at this one, again, remote desktop, I put another conditional access policy in, and this one's saying basically you need to MFA, you're hitting this app, MFA, so we sign in after trying to attempt access to that application, and then we run through an MFA prompt, right? And I may have done this too slow, so I think it timed out on me because I was too slow, but yeah. But I've done my MFA, and here we go again. MFA is done. I've done my authentication, and again, I couldn't type a password correctly, but I think I got it right the second time, and then we're through, right? So there we go. Okay, so I'm on to the last demo here. This is just in relation to monitoring. Another key aspect of BAU when you're using a technology. It's all great and fun playing with it, but we also need to know what we need to do to troubleshoot, right? So I've put this together. So the client itself has a lot of diagnostics that we can run. I might pause here. So on the first, we've got our overview of the client. Here we can see the tenant that we're registered to, all the other bits and pieces, and the client version as well, which is crucial to keep on top of as new versions are rolled out. I believe another one went out today, another new version. So lots of fixes and new features that are coming in fairly rapidly for this technology or solution. We've also got our health check. So this is very important when it comes to the troubleshooting of those clients, and I've failed the 24-hour health checks. I was mucking around too much with it, but as we can see, all these are checked out. I might just duck back here. We did see quick in Edge isn't supported as well. So this is, again, another thing to be mindful of in internet access is that this needs to be disabled, so it's not supported. So that in my lab was left as a false. But we can get a good overview of the client there. We can also do some testing, so similar to testing or what if in conditional access rules and those sorts of things. We can run some policy tests to validate whether or not traffic from the client side is traversing the tunnel. So here we can see that port 80 is tunneling. So we've got our action tunnel straight to this 10.2.0.4. And then what I've also done is I've run another test to DNS. Now, DNS shouldn't be forwarded through private access, so I've excluded that one from this test. So we can have a look here. And another, day-to-day test, we can see it's a bypass that's not traversing the tunnel, right? So these are very important things to be aware of when you're playing around and testing and troubleshooting. We've got all our advanced log collection as well as any traffic sniffing, being able to understand what's happening from the client side when it comes to accessing data. And then in the dashboard, I've got a bit of a quick overview here, just some of the metrics that we can pull in. It's all preview, as you can see, so there's going to be a lot of activity in this space, but we could see all our internet traffic flowing through, FQDNs, number of hits, actions, so forth. So it's really useful when you're working, I guess, external from the client. You want to get a bit of an insight into what's going on and the different profiles as well. So we could see in my lab, we've got all three lit up in terms of profiles, and we can start working through those. So again, audit logs are here, visible. We can see all the changes that were made, whether they were successful or not, to the platform, and we can work through there. And workbooks, which is blank, but essentially dependent on any logs that are ingested into a workspace. So that sums up the demo there. I might move on to the last slide just to thank everyone for listening to my, presentation. I'm here to field any questions, Q&A, if anyone's got anything to talk about or I'll ask, or I'll hand it back over to you, Andrew.
One question about licensing. So is this coming under the standard M365 3 and E5, or is it?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's an add-on.
Yeah, you got Intune Suite, or you got individual SKUs.
Yeah.
So if you want to purchase the two, and there are, I believe, some add-on licensing for bandwidth as well. When it comes to if you're heavily utilizing bandwidth as well, I believe. Don't hold me on that one though. That's just from the top of my head. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Probably a broader question, Zane, but just for everyone else's benefit as well, what other scenarios can it cover? It looks pretty sophisticated and covering a lot of other areas as well. What in production, based on your exposure, what other scenarios could it cover, mate?
I think one of the most common scenarios is solving the VPN solution. So you've got, the VPN proof of concept, where you can look at proof of concept. Does this retire that, conventional VPN, right? As well as just zero trust access to resources. So you might want to segment access. So end users shouldn't have from my desktop capabilities to XYZ servers, right? And we can control that through private access, through the private access profile. Also, just having the solution in place, we're able to leverage conditional access more. We're able to look at extra like compliant network, for instance, as I demoed in our admin portal. That's an extra, I guess, control that we can look at leveraging, right? There may be instances where you want just users working from private access only endpoints that are compliant, for instance. So you're mixing Intune with global secure access, so you're just adding more and you're getting all that intra control as well.
Awesome. It's pretty new to the industry. I think that's why we don't have many questions yet. But
look,
see a lot more down the track, hopefully.
Yeah, so hopefully, with what I've presented, it just gives everyone a bit of a feel for some of the use cases around the solution. It's rapidly evolving. There's a lot of features in preview. There's a lot of excitement in the space. So it's definitely going to be a lot of fun to play with, as it keeps growing and expanding.
Excellent.
So I might.
No worries.
Thanks again, everyone, and I might. Sorry, what was that?
I was just going to say, on the back of that, there are other established SASE products and solutions out there. What's your kind of impression on what Microsoft's global secure access compared to those?
I think it's unique in the space of just the deep integration with Entra, right? And Intune and those technologies. So in my experience, I've seen it successfully deployed. It's in proof of concepts, I suppose you could say, heading into piloting phases and contending against these solutions. It's just really, I think, it's really important to work from, those business success criteria to really understand if it ticks those boxes, but definitely seen a lot of good feedback and the flexibility of the solution in terms of rolling it out and how powerful it is, and what gain, like in terms of some of the stories I've seen, the hybrid workers being able to have this access to resources which are conventionally just open through VPN. Now we're able to granularly control and have confidence around the security of access to these applications rather than just leaving leaving those doors open. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I think that's it for questions. I'd like to thank you again, Zane, for presenting for us on
no worries.
reasonable notice.
Yeah. More than happy to. Yep. So excellent. All right. Well, I'll hand it back over to you now.
Yeah, if people want to reach out to Zane, you had his QR code up before, but we'll definitely share his profile in the notes. Well, that's a wrap for this month. I think we may have next month in order soon. Yeah, so we'll get the announcements out soon. We'll publish the event so that you can start registering it and popping it in your calendars. But yeah, thanks for coming along and tuning in wherever you may be.
Thank you.
Thanks.